Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Coding with T. Today we're going to learn how to fetch banners and display banners on any type of Flutter application. And also we are going to learn how we can navigate to any other relevant screen whenever this banner is going to be clicked. So let's get started. So our application is running, currently loading its data, and you can see the banner is loaded. When we are going to move to the next banner, you can also see the banner is also loaded. And now once these banners are loaded, they are cached because we are going to use the cache image to cache these images instead of loading again and again. Same way in the previous tutorial, we learn how to add categories, and we also use the cache network image to display all these images. Same way we are going to learn how to fetch data, especially these images or the banners from the Firebase, Firestore, and also definitely images inside the cloud Firebase storage. Along with that, the plus point that we are going to learn the roots, app roots inside our application in Flutter. When we are going to click on this icon, you can see it move us to the cart screen. Currently the cart is empty, so we cannot see anything. Head back, let's select the banner. It takes us to the addresses screen, so it depends where we are redirecting users. So when we tap the third one, we redirect it to the wish list. So it depends where we are actually redirecting user to whenever this card is going to be selected. So this is what we are going to learn creating Flutter e-commerce application, and we have already completed all the design part in first three sections, and also we have completed the backend of login, and currently our user is logged in. We also see how we can redirect user based on its login or logout. We also learn the local storage or the shared preferences to store onboarding data and also remember me passwords and bunch of other things in the section 4. So we are in our last section, which is section 5, and in this we are about to create the second video. So let's get started. Android Studio, and we are inside our project we created for our e-commerce application, and inside you can see we previously learned how to create the categories, and we talked about how to get all the categories and reuse the categories throughout in our application instead of calling again and again to reduce the number of reads. Then also at the end we talk about how to upload the dummy categories. But for today's tutorial, when you open the home application inside the shop features, when you open this home.dart, inside you can see in the body we created promo slider, which currently displaying three banners by default. So when we are going to open this widget, it is getting three banners. We are passing the banners manually. We cannot change them. If you want to change them, we have to change them in the code. And also on top of these banners, we are not redirecting to any screen. And if you see for the bottom navigation dots, we are using a home controller, and using that home controller, we learn how to create the navigational dots and redirect and jump to the next dot whenever the banner change. Inside this home controller, we simply created a one function and the carousel index. But when we started our previous section, especially the backend, we learned that we cannot put anything in any controller. If we take the example again, design should be in the design screen, controllers should be managing, because by name you can see controllers duty is to control things between design and the backend. So the backend is in the repository. Repository is only dealing with the Firebase, Firestore. If you're using SQL, maybe APIs, anything. So repositories are for the backend. Then model is going to map the data from JSON to the model so that we can use in our application. And the duty of the controller is to control the design, maybe start loading, then check the internet connectivity and get data from the repository. Once the data is arrived, maybe some exception arrived, catch the exception and display the relevant message to the user. So these are the functions of controller. So we cannot add anything in any controller, right? So every controller has a specific job. So same way, if you watch the previous tutorial, we created a separate controller for the category. Its duty was to add a try catch, start the loading, get data from the repository, assign that received data to the variables with Rx variables, also filter the featured category data, catch any exception, and finally remove the loader. So this was the work of this category controller. So same way, we want to handle the banners. So it's a good practice to create a separate file for the banner repository, for the banner controller, and for the banner design. So if we see the banner design, which is the promo sliders, this means the design is ready. Now we need to create a controller. I've created a banner controller, which is empty banner controller, extending with the getX controller. If you want to extend it, you can. If you don't want to extend it, it's your choice. So if we see the home controller, we need to extract these two methods because we don't want to use home controller for the banners. Instead, we want to use banner controller for the banners. Okay, now we have the controller. Its duty is to also get all these banners and display on the screen before creating this function. go to the home controller. Let's remove this. In the category controller, as previously we created a function. So let's copy this and paste it over here. Its duty is to fetch all the banners. We'll definitely use the loading, display all the data. So import loaders. Same way, we're going to copy the isLoading variable, which will be triggered whenever this loading will start or stop. So based on this variable using OBS, if you watch the previous tutorial, you know that OBS is a type of variable which has a return type of RX. So you can see it's Boolean type, but it has a return type of RX, means that using getX, we can use the OBX widget to identify whenever there is change inside this loading. It should call set state automatically and redraw the design. Instead of calling the category repository, we have to create a banner repository and get all the banners. So let's remove this. Head towards the data in the repositories. We have to create banners repository, same way we created categories repository. Inside this banner repository, it has a name banner repository and a static get.find method. And as a variable, we are going to use the Firebase Firestore instance, which is private, and we are going to extract them in this function. But before, we need to get the model on which we are going to map all the data we received from the JSON. In the previous tutorial, we learned how to use the categories and upload all the categories data from the application. And to see that, if you head towards the profile and down below, you can see the load data. Okay, inside you can see we first learn how to upload all the categories, brands, products, and over here you can see the banners. You can upload the banners as well using this code. If you want to get all this data and want to upload the data, you can download the complete Flutter project. Link is in the description. Okay, so in here, if you head towards the banners, you can see we have a bunch of banners over here. So it has three properties. The first one is the target screen on which we are going to land whenever user is going to click on this. We want to land on the search screen. This is the image URL of the banner and is this banner is active or not. So create it inside the design currently we are working on. We have to first create a collection, name it banners, click on next, auto ID. The first one is image URL. Currently we don't have any image URL, so it's empty. Then we have active value, it's boolean, it is true. Target screen is search. When you click on save, it will be created like this. And when you are going to click on the banners property, whenever you are going to click on this banners over here, so it is going to use this dummy data class and it is going to upload all these banners automatically into your database, whatever the database connected. Then we have the dummy data of user, cart, orders, categories, brands, brand category relations, product category relations, then products itself. The list is keep on going. So this way you can upload all these data. You can download the code, link is in the description. Okay, now in order to map this data into our Flutter application, we have to create a model which will have these three type of properties. So I've created a banner model inside the features in the shop, and in the models you can see we have a banner model, a simple class with the three text fields, image URL, target screen, and boolean of is active or not. Then a constructor and then a map which is going to convert the data to a JSON format and upload it on the store. And these values should be same as we have over here. So these variables should match the variables over here. So once done, this to.json is going to convert the model data and map it into a JSON format and return it to the Firebase. And this model is doing vice versa. It is going to receive a JSON into a document snapshot. We will extend this. If you remember, we learned that the map is actually a JSON, which is key and value pair. So key will always be string, value will all be dynamic. So this is basically a JSON. So we'll extract that JSON, and using a key data of image URL means that whatever the data inside this key, we want to store it inside this variable, and we will return this model. So once the model is ready, head towards the banner repository and create a try catch with the function which is going to return a future type of list of banner models, because we don't have a single list but we will have multiple banners. So that's why we need to use a list. List is an array, and also we have to make it future and async because we have to use a cloud query to make it async. We have to make sure that this function is async, so return type will be future. And then we are going to use the custom exception handling. Exception handling is already explained in detail in the previous videos. Now create a query over here. Query is simply calling the database, which is Firebase Firestore.instance dot go to collection of banners that we just created, and add a check where active A will be capital. This keyword or this value active is equal to true. So wherever this value is true, get all the banners where they are active. Once we have a result in a document snapshot, we will call the docs to get a single document each time, because these docs contain a list of, you can see a list of query document snapshots. Using a Mac property, we are going to extract a single document snapshot each time, because we have a single document over here. Inside this document, we have a JSON. So we'll pass this document to our model, banner model dot from snapshot. This is going to receive it and return the banner model. So by this way, once we have the banner model returned, we will do it for all of these values using map. And once we have all the values mapped, and we are going to use the dot to list to return the list back to where this function is called. So our repository is almost completed. Our model is completed. Now head toward this controller, and in here now we want to call that. So first and foremost, we are going to create a list of banners that we will be using again and again inside our application. Once we just have to initialize this list, and then we want to reuse this list throughout in our application where required. Instead of calling the fetch banners method again and again, to call the database and receive the data from the Firestore. So to avoid the reads, we are going to create a simple list. This list is going to get all the banners, and that banners will be reused. So whenever there is change inside this list using OBS, definitely we will be able to redraw our design and display a relevant message. Now inside this fetch banners, get all the banners by first calling the banner repository, which we just created. Create its instance using get.put. Once instance is created, use the fetch banner method to get all the banners, and make sure to call the wait sign, because otherwise you will not be able to get the banners. Then we have to assign those banners. We have to assign those banners to the banners above using dot assign all property, and we are going to assign the banners we have just received. And also make sure to call this, because these are the banners, and also this is the banners name. So you have to use the this dot banners assign all. We have to assign all these banners we fetched to this list. Once done, we are done with the controller. So controller will start the loading, get all the banners, assign all the banners to this list, not returning anything. Once assigned, it is going to in the finally remove this loader. Now head towards the promo slider. Instead of calling the home controller, we're going to use the banner controller. Using get.put, we will be able to trigger the event. And one more thing, whenever our application will be launched, this design will be created for the first time. The promo slider will be called for the first time, and this build is going to create the design. At that time, we are going to call the get.put to create a new instance. So whenever we know that new instance will be created for the first time, on init method will be called. So press Control O to override and hit enter to create the override on init method. Now inside this method, we also want to call fetch banners, because whenever that design will be loaded, a new instance of this banner controller will be created, and automatically this on init method will be executed. All this fetch banners, and without doing anything, these banners will have all the banners assigned from this function. So instead of getting banners from the home screen, just remove this, because we don't need to get the banners from here. Instead of getting banners from there, we now have the banners inside controller dot banners. And again, we just want to use the map property, because it is going to map or start or run a loop on each of the banners. So instead of URL, now we have a complete banner. So inside this rounded image as an image URL, we are going to use banner dot image URL. And next we have to call the is network image inside the rounded image and make it true, because all the banners are coming from the network. And then we have to call the on press property of this widget, and we're going to move to the next screen using get.to named property. Not to get.to, but we're going to use the get.to named property. Press the Control Alt L to align the code, and inside the get.to name, we have to provide a string. When you hover over this, you have to provide the page itself in a string, and also in the arguments you can provide anything. So we also have a target, which is banner dot target screen. This is a string on which this click will take us. So also in the banners below, we have to call controller dot banners dot length. So whatever the number of these controllers, we want to display the dots as much as we have length over here. Okay, so you might have a question that where exactly we are going to get this target screen. So we are heading towards that. Just give me a minute. Inside the home dot dart, we don't have to pass any banner now. If I open the dummy data class, which I've already created, inside this, if you want to follow this approach, so that's why I'm showing this banners list over here. So it is a dummy class, a function named as banners. It's not a function, but it is a list of banners. And inside this list, I have created almost 7 to 8 banners. And in each banner model, I have passed the image URL. The banners we have already created. Then we have a target screen. So this is what you have to pass over here. So this is the target screen that we are going to create just now, and then active or not active will be passed as well. Now to pass the target screens, let's close it. Inside this lib folder, I'm going to create a new folder, name it route. Inside I've created two classes. The first one is the routes class, routes.dart, and inside you can see a simple class, troutes, contains bunch of static values which are pointing to some variables, some strings. So these all are the strings. The reason to use a static over here is troutes dot home will be directly called instead of creating new instance. So using these troutes, we can easily call any screen because get.toName exactly require this thing to redirect to the relevant screens. Okay, fine. We're going to pass these routes to the variables. Exactly, this is a string that will be stored inside our database. If you open this, you can see I have added target screen as / search is going to be added over here. When you head towards this routes, you can see the / search is over here. Now we store this data, but we also have to inform the get library that this is the approach that we are going to use. For that, we have to create app routes, list of pages, because we have to use the get.toName. It is going to redirect us to some relevant page. So how it is going to redirect us to some relevant screen? So all the screens are displayed over here using get.page feature. Name is the same name. You can see we have over here using troutes dot list of name, and each name contain a page itself, right? So you can see each name as a specific page. So once we have all these pages inside the main.dart, we have app in which we have a get material app. So inside this, we have to declare the pages. So when you provide get pages, you can see we have to provide a list of pages, which are the get pages. So to provide a list, the one way is to add all the list over here, and the second way is to create a separate class and get all the pages from here. So we are going to use approutes.pages. It is going to get all the list and assign the list to this get pages. Now get material app knows which page means what. We just have to call the name of the page and it is going to automatically redirect us to some relevant screen. Okay, here I've made some changes, added a image URL and also a target screen. So now let's try to run our application. Okay, so our application is running, and because user is logged in, so you can see we have redirected to the home screen, but we cannot see any image over here because when we receive the data at that time our controller was unable to get all the updates. So controller.banner was empty, that's why we cannot see anything over here, and is loading was true, but we are also not using that. So whenever the banners receive this data, we want to update our design. So to do that, on top of this column, on top of this whole widget, we are going to create a widget which should handle loading and reset the new state. So wrap this column with a banner, which is a widget, which is the OBX widget, which is going to redraw the state whenever any of the OBS variable is going to be changed. So it has to be a function, extract all the design, and inside this function we have to return a widget. So we are going to return our column widget, control alt L to align the code. Now inside this OBX function we have to check few more details. The first thing is a loader. If controller dot is loading dot value is true, if it is true, we want to return a shimmer effect loader, because we have created a dummy loader over here using shimmer property. If you want to use it, you have to add this package. Then we have created a custom shimmer. We have to define the width and height, and whenever until this is loading is true, it is going to return this. Whenever there is change inside this is loading, this OBX is going to detect a change. It is going to redraw the state, a complete design inside this function, and it is going to redraw it again. Whenever it is going to false, it is not going to return this design. Next, it is going to check the next thing, which is that if no data found, it is going to check the controller banners dot is empty. It is going to return that we have not found anything, and in the else case, we're going to return our actual column, extract it from here. Now let's rerun this code, and this time you can see our screen appears currently we can only scroll with the one screen because it have no other child, and also you can see a single dot. The same way we currently have two categories at the top just for the learning purpose, and at the below we can have only one banner. We extracted the same way. If we are going to add more details or the more banners over here, we will be able to see all those banners. I've added one more. Okay, so now you can see it loads two designs. The first one is this one, and the second one, when you hover over this, when you click on next, you can see we have two dots and also we have two designs. So with the two different sizes, we are able to scroll between these two banners. When we are going to click on this first banner, so we are redirecting to this card screen. And when we are going to click on the second banner, we are able to redirect to the store screen, right? So this is how we fetch all the data and redirect to some relevant screen. Okay, so that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you learned something new. In the next tutorial, we're going to talk about how we can get the product details, and how we can display all the products on the grid screen. So next tutorial is going to be very informative. If you learned something new, please like the video. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to like and subscribe for more upcoming videos. Once again, thank you for watching, and you can get the complete code link is in the description, or you can get the complete playlist link in the description or from the right up corner. So thank you for watching. Take care. Allah Hafiz.